At 4:17 local time, the Red Sea was still pitch black when the first alert tone sliced through the Combat Information Center of a U.S. Navy carrier strike group. No sirens, no shouting, just the calm voice of the tactical action officer cutting across the dim glow of Aegis consoles. Multiple inbound tracks, bearing split north and northeast, two separate vectors forming at the exact same moment. This wasn't random. This was coordinated. For weeks, intelligence had been watching increased activity out of Iranian ports and Russian naval movements in the region. The Carrier Strike Group, centered on one of America's most powerful Nimitz or Ford-class carriers, protected by Arleigh Burke destroyers, cruisers, and a full air wing, was on routine freedom of navigation patrol. Their mission: keep the vital shipping lane open for global commerce that carries everything from oil to electronics through one of the world's most critical choke points. Inside the CIC, every operator knew the stakes. The United States Navy doesn't just protect ships. It protects the rules-based international order that keeps the global economy breathing. But tonight, someone wanted to test that resolve. The northern track stayed razor low, sea-skimming at just 30 feet above the waves, speed climbing fast. The eastern track climbed high and fast, already showing a classic ballistic arc. Then passive sonar painted a third contact 32 nautical miles out, a quiet diesel-electric signature matching a Russian Kilo-class submarine. 3 domains. One moment. One American carrier strike group standing ready. What happened next wasn't just a battle. It was a masterclass in modern naval power. Layered defense, ice-cold professionalism, and technology that turned an enemy's best shot into the most expensive intelligence gift they never meant to give. The tactical action officer didn't raise his voice. He simply read the numbers that every console already confirmed. Northern track, sea-skimming cruise missile, 30 feet off the water, speed increasing. Eastern track, ballistic profile, rapid climb. Time to impact on first missile, 97 seconds. Ballistic missile in terminal phase in approximately 3 minutes. Then came the third track, passive sonar lighting up like a Christmas tree, 32 nautical miles out. Low-frequency diesel-electric signature, narrowband transient consistent with a Russian Kilo-class submarine. 3 domains: air, surface, and subsurface. All converging on one American carrier strike group in the same 60-second window. Inside the CIC, the atmosphere shifted from routine patrol to full combat readiness without a single wasted word. Condition 1 was set. Vertical launch system cells cycled live. SM-2 and SM-6 interceptors were assigned. ESSM batteries came online. The ship's advanced electronic warfare suite, AN/SLQ-32, began passive scanning and immediately painted Iranian frequency patterns. On the main display, 4 confirmed cruise missile signatures locked in. The ballistic track was already climbing fast through the stratosphere. And that Kilo-class boat out there had just become very real. This wasn't a random harassment run by the Houthis or a lone Iranian speedboat. This was a deliberate multi-domain saturation attempt. Exactly the kind of coordinated strike Russia and Iran had been practicing in the shadows for years. They were trying to overwhelm America's layered defenses with speed, numbers, and timing. But the U.S. Navy had spent decades and billions perfecting the answer to exactly this scenario. The Aegis combat system, called the most sophisticated integrated air defense network on the planet, was already painting every threat with crystal clarity. The captain's voice came calm over the bridge circuit. All stations, stand by to engage. Let's do this by the numbers. The first SM-3 solution was already in the computer. The SM-3 solution locked in milliseconds after the order left the captain's lips. From the deck of an escorting Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, a hatch snapped open. One Standard Missile 3 erupted skyward on a pillar of white fire, punching straight into the upper atmosphere. This wasn't just a missile, it was America's premier exo-atmospheric interceptor, designed to kill threats in space itself. At 80,000 feet, the warhead separated, its kinetic kill vehicle guiding on pure infrared. A brilliant flash lit the night sky like a second sun. The ballistic track vanished from every screen. One threat erased before it ever reached terminal phase. No cheers. Just quiet confirmation. Ballistic track destroyed. The real fight was only beginning. The 4 Iranian cruise missiles were now skimming the waves at 50 feet, weaving slightly as their terminal guidance radars went active. ESSM-6 missiles left their rails in rapid succession. America's most advanced dual-role interceptor, capable of hitting both aircraft and sea-skimming missiles at Mach 3.5. The first intercept was textbook, a clean detonation, debris raining harmlessly into open water. The second cruise missile tried a desperate decoy burst. Multiple false returns bloomed on radar. Iranian jamming waveforms spiked hard, but the U.S. Navy's AN/SLQ 32 electronic warfare suite was already one step ahead, isolating the enemy frequencies and countering with narrowband disruption. ESSM batteries ripple-fired, their compact Sea Sparrow missiles streaking low across the waterline. One cruise missile disintegrated in a white flash just 3 nautical miles out. The final sea skimmer kept coming, hugging the waves at 15 feet, homing straight for the carrier's massive radar return. Range, 2 nautical miles. Time to impact, 21 seconds. CIWS, stand by, came the call. The Phalanx close-in weapon system, affectionately called R2D2 by sailors, spun up with a high-pitched whine. 20-millimeter tungsten rounds tore through the air at 75 rounds per second. Impact. A hard white bloom erupted less than 500 yards off the carrier's bow. Fragments peppered the water. Shockwave rolled across the hull. The sky was clear, but the sonar screen was still screaming. The sky was clear. Every cruise missile had been turned into debris or flame. But inside the CIC, no one relaxed. The sonar operator's voice stayed flat and professional. Transient torpedo launch confirmed. Wake homing signature. Bearing 085, speed high. The Kilo just fired. The Russian submarine hadn't been shooting blind. It had waited for the exact moment the carrier group's attention was split, then slipped a wake-homing torpedo into the water, designed to chase the loudest acoustic footprint in the formation, the carrier itself. The strike group answered instantly and without panic. One Arleigh Burke-class destroyer surged to flank speed, steel screws biting deep into the Red Sea. Behind it, Nixie acoustic decoys and towed countermeasures streamed into the water, broadcasting a far louder signature than the carrier could ever produce. The torpedo took the bait, shifting course toward the decoy like a shark smelling blood. At the same moment, an MH-60R Seahawk lifted off the flight deck in under 3 minutes. Rotors thundering, the helicopter dropped its dipping sonar into the water, while the crew splashed sonobuoys in a widening acoustic net. These weren't random moves. This was textbook U.S. Navy anti-submarine warfare, honed over decades against exactly this threat. Quiet Russian diesel-electric boats operating in shallow, noisy littorals. Back in the CIC, the tactical action officer recalculated in real time. Subsurface contact still active at 27 miles. Authorize ASROC. From the destroyer's deck, a rocket-assisted torpedo blasted skyward, arced outward, then plunged into the sea. Underwater, the payload separated and began its own lethal hunt. The Kilo responded by releasing decoys, metallic echoes and false signatures flooding the sonar screen. But the American helicopter crew filtered the noise with calm precision. Then another alert flashed across the big screen. New surface contacts bearing north-northeast, 4 fast attack craft, speed 38 knots, Iranian signatures. They're splitting formation. The fight had just gone from 3 domains to full saturation. The submarine was still out there, and now the surface swarm was closing fast. At the top of the climb, nearly 45,000 feet above the ocean, Viper 11 makes his next move. The F-22 rolls inverted again, just as it did before, but this time the maneuver is sharper, more decisive. Instead of dropping straight back toward the Tomcats, the Raptor slices downward along a steep diagonal vector, cutting across the sky at an angle the Iranian pilots never predicted. This is not a random escape maneuver. It is geometry. Modern air combat is rarely about brute speed alone. It's about controlling the angles of the fight, who sees whom first, who can maneuver unseen, and who controls the final firing position. The Raptor was built specifically to dominate that geometry. As the F-22 dives through thinner air, its stealth profile and sensor fusion allow it to move almost invisible within the radar picture. The Tomcat's radar systems were designed decades earlier to track large, predictable targets: bombers, cruise missiles, conventional fighters. But the Raptor behaves differently. Its radar cross-section is tiny, its flight path is unpredictable, and its maneuvering space includes vertical layers the Tomcats struggle to match. When the Iranian radar finally sweeps the sky again, the intercept geometry has changed completely. The Raptor is no longer where the computers predicted it should be. Not ahead, not off to the side. For a moment, the radar returns show nothing at all. Inside the Tomcats, the pilots search their displays, scanning for the missing contact. Their radar warning receivers remain quiet. Their instruments show empty sky ahead. But then suddenly the cockpit alarms erupt. A new tone blasts through both aircraft. It's unmistakable. Radar lock rear aspect. The warning indicates that another aircraft has achieved a stable targeting lock from directly behind them. The Iranian pilots glance at their instruments in disbelief. Distance 6 nautical miles. Position 6 o'clock. The realization hits instantly. Just moments earlier, they believed they were closing on a vulnerable stealth aircraft. Their radar had the advantage. Their intercept looked solid. Now the situation has completely reversed. Somehow, without ever appearing clearly on their radar screens, the F-22 Raptor has maneuvered behind them into the most dangerous position in air combat. Neither Iranian pilot saw it happen. They didn't see the climb. They didn't see the diagonal slice through the sky. And they certainly didn't see the moment the hunter became the hunted. But inside the cockpit of Viper 11, the display tells a very different story. Both Tomcats now sit perfectly centered inside the Raptor's missile solution box. At 6 nautical miles, the engagement has reached its most decisive moment. Inside the cockpit of the F-22 Raptor, the display is calm and perfectly organized. 2 target boxes sit clearly on the screen, each one locked onto an Iranian F-14 Tomcat flying ahead. The geometry is flawless. Rear aspect position, stable tracking solution, perfect missile parameters. Inside the Raptor's internal weapons base sit AIM-120D AMRAAM missiles, sealed behind stealth doors, waiting for a command that would take less than a second to execute. If those bay doors open now, the engagement would be over almost instantly. At this range, the Tomcats would likely hear the missile launch warning barely a second before impact. But something unexpected happens. The Raptor pilot does nothing. The master arm switch remains off. Not because the shot isn't valid, not because the aircraft can't fire, and not because the rules of engagement would forbid it. The reason is far simpler. The point has already been made. For nearly 2 minutes, the Iranian pilots believed they controlled the fight. Their radar had locked the target. Their intercept geometry looked strong. Their missiles were nearly within range. Yet during that same time, the Raptor quietly climbed, vanished from radar, repositioned, and slid into the deadliest position in air combat, directly behind them. The Tomcats never detected the maneuver. They never saw the Raptor move above them. They never saw it dive across the intercept line. And they never saw it take position at their 6 o'clock. Only when their own warning receivers screamed did they realize the truth. The Iranian formation reacts instantly. The lead Tomcat brakes hard left, pulling maximum G-forces. The wingman splits the opposite direction, diving right to widen the separation. Both aircraft dump thick streams of defensive flares, bright burning trails spilling into the sky behind them. The maneuver is textbook defensive training. Hard brake, maximum turn rate, force the attacker to overshoot. Every move they make, every second of reaction time, is automatically recorded by the F-22 sensors. Reaction delay measured, brake direction logged, flare deployment sequence captured. Still, no missile launches. No explosion tears through the sky. The Raptor simply holds position for a few seconds longer, maintaining the lock, long enough to ensure the message is unmistakable. The Iranian aircraft were never in control. They were inside the kill zone the entire time. And the Raptor pilot chose not to fire. Within seconds of the defensive split, the entire atmosphere of the encounter changes. The Iranian pilots stop maneuvering aggressively. Their aircraft level out and accelerate away from the engagement zone, pointing their noses back toward home airspace. The radar emissions disappear. Moments earlier, the Tomcats had been pushing their radar systems to maximum power, searching, locking, probing every angle of the sky. Now the screens fall silent. No more aggressive sweeps, no more attempts to re-engage. Just full throttle and a straight path home. Behind them, Viper 11 watches the separation grow. The F-22 maintains altitude for a moment longer, silently tracking the departing aircraft. Then the Raptor performs one final maneuver. The jet climbs again, pushing upward toward 48,000 feet before the pilot smoothly advances the throttles. The aircraft accelerates past Mach 1.6, slicing through the thin air with effortless power. For a brief moment, a faint vapor cone forms around the aircraft as it punches through the cold upper atmosphere. Below, the Iranian pilots can see the sudden burst of speed and altitude through their instruments and cockpit canopies. The message requires no radio call, no warning broadcast, no aggressive taunt over the international frequency. The message is silent but unmistakable. You were never in control. From the outside world, nothing dramatic appears to have happened that afternoon. No missiles streaked across the sky. No aircraft fell burning into the ocean. No emergency calls echoed across military frequencies. 2 jets approached an American aircraft. Then they turned around and flew home. But in the language of modern air power, everything about the encounter mattered. The Iranian pilots entered the intercept with trained crews, powerful radar systems, and the confidence that comes with decades of air defense doctrine. They left with a very different understanding. Radar power does not equal dominance. Speed does not guarantee initiative. And a radar lock against a stealth aircraft does not mean you control the fight. Because the most dangerous aircraft in the sky is rarely the one racing toward you on the radar screen. It's the one that has already moved behind you, already locked you in its sights, and simply decided not to pull the trigger. If you enjoyed this breakdown of modern air combat tactics, make sure to watch our next video and stay updated on the latest military analysis.